Okay, so we're going back to this life after life. I do want to make a true confessions here. Okay, so certain parts of life after life are not that pleasant. They talk about Gehenna and what happens and this and that. So I kind of wanted to skip over that. Okay, I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong and you want me to go back, and I can tell you all the different ways that you will be cleansed, okay, and things will happen. But I kind of felt like there's an understanding here. This is what I'm going to just sum it up with, as there's an understanding here that what you do matters. And like we said before, when you want to enjoy your Gan Eden, Hashem wants you to really be able to enjoy it fully. So he wants you to have like anything that would stand in the way between you and your appreciation of spirituality, Hashem wants to see removed from you. Okay. So what's interesting is Gehenna is actually like a big blessing, right? It really is. And you actually have to be ready for rehab. So I find that with people that I know, like if anyone knows anyone who's an alcoholic or drug addict or someone who's really suffering from any kind of mental illness, you can't just fix them. You've got to wait for the right time. Do you know what I mean? Like the people have to be able to appreciate that they want to get better. Does everyone know what I mean? Like, that's why I think like in Judaism, when you think about time, we have a very interesting view to it. We always say Bisha'a Tova, at the right time. Like somebody says, oh, I'm expecting, we go, oh, Bisha'a Tova, at the right time. We don't say congratulations, we say at the right time. What does that mean? At the right time, your baby should be born, because if they're born too early, it's not a good thing. And if you're way, way overdue, it's also a danger to your child. So we're always wishing that everything should be at the right time. So it's an interesting idea that it's sort of like you're going to go up for your judgment day, okay? And we said everyone's going to have to pass through some kind of rehab, and even in the when you're in the casket and stuff like that, it's not going to be necessarily the most comfortable place to be, and it will be a little challenging, especially, we said, for people who lived very physically in this world, because those people who lived very physically in this world, they're very connected to it. Right. And now I'm going to give them this whole spiritual experience. They're going to be, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, what is this? I don't relate to this. Okay. So we're saying
it also will not work.
Yeah, it's just like, right. So it's interesting. This is very interesting concept. And what I want to talk to you about now, and we're going to get into and hopefully do a couple classes on it, is the concept of Gilgul. So for a minute, I just want people open up and tell me what you think. You hear this word reincarnation, like we as Jews believe in reincarnation. So what is this concept of reincarnation? Like, tell me what you think it means.
You come back. It's like,
okay, so you come back. So what is it that comes back? Like, does Gail Michalowicz come back?
Your soul.
So what's coming back is very, very interesting when we talk about this idea of reincarnated souls. It's like every soul has a mission to complete, right? So it's interesting that the Torah will tell you, if you didn't complete part of your mission, you will be sent back. So let's say God expected from you that you would learn X amount, like in the totality of your life, you should have had 1,000 hours of Torah learning under your belt. And you come up to heaven and you got like 100. Okay? So then the Almighty says to you, sending you to Gehenna isn't going to do anything. Right? That was a huge mistake. That was a huge what's the word?
Missed
opportunity. A huge thank you, Esther. It's a huge missed opportunity. All right. And for your neshama to be a healthy soul and to really enjoy this world to come, and to have said that I completed what I came here for, it's empty. You're missing it. You're going to have to go back. So now listen carefully, because God can't even send you to Gehenna, because Gehenna only works for mistakes that you made. You have a stain on your shirt, I can clean it off, but I can't do
something clean.
Yeah, I can't do for you what you missed doing.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So it's
Yeah.
almost, you know how the Torah has mitzvahs aseh, mitzvahs that you need to do, and mitzvahs lo ta'aseh, mitzvahs that you shouldn't do. So, I mean, not mitzvahs that you shouldn't do, things that you shouldn't do. If you did things that you shouldn't do, yeah, you got a stain, buddy. All right. And I can clean off that stain with Gehenim. It's unfortunate, like through punishment, right? The way we get rid of dirt, even in this world, you got to scrub and rub. You know, my husband always gives these like, stories about how if there's stains on the carpet, the only way he ever gets it out, he doesn't get it out with, the vacuum. He's got to get down on his hands and his knees and really rub, 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 rub. So that's what Gehenim is. You've made some really bad boo-boos. You've done things you really shouldn't have done. Okay, then we're going to be able to scrub you out that way. But if you've missed opportunities and God expected from you 1,000 hours of Torah and you came back with 100, then guess what? It's God's gift to this neshama and what it has to be completed, that it has to return, right? And have this opportunity to fill in those hours. So I'm going to tell you something that's very interesting. The Torah tells you if a man never put on tefillin, he can't get into the world to come. And that is why, do you ever ask yourself, why does Chabad make so much effort to put tefillin on people? Like, why?
Wow.
How much work this is? They have their big trucks and they take out the tefillin and they go up to every single man in the street. Hey, did you put tefillin on? Because if you get a pair of tefillin on that guy, you give him,
לזכות אותם.
yeah, you give him a card that he can get entry into Olam Haba.
But
Without
in Hebrew, it's much more beautiful.
Yeah, so beautiful. So if you without that opportunity, the Torah tells you have to put on tefillin at least 2 or 3 times just to merit being able to get to the world to come, just to be allowed to even step in. All right, then you'll get your Gehenim and everything else, but you can't even get there. All right, Bichlal. So sometimes, like if a person never put on tefillin, guess what the Torah tells you? They're going to have to start all over again. Okay, now. Just heads up for us to know that we have to remember, this is like really important for us to remember, no matter like how down and out we get, okay, weigh the 2 most important things that you can do to get into the world to come, that keeps you as a healthy candidate for the world to come is 1, stick with the community. Anybody who says, you know what, I hate the Jews. I know I'm a Jew, but I don't want to have anything to do with them. I'm leaving. I'm living up on a mountain. I'm cloistering in a monastery. Or it says you cut yourself off. You cut yourself off for the opportunity of the world to come. Okay?
Mhm.
You got to stick.
100%.
Yes, it makes sense because we
Yes.
believe, right? Not only are you a neshama in your own way, you're part of the collective soul of the Jewish people. So if you ignore that and you say, ugh, I hate being in a Jewish community, I want to live in Sudbury with all the non-Jews and I don't want to care about anything, then guess what? You cut yourself off. So each and every one of us, Baruch Hashem, on this Zoom, all of you are community people. All of you come to the shul. All of you, care about being part of the Jewish people, support Israel, help other Jews. Like we're very vibrant parts of the Jewish community. The second thing is tzniut. Okay, tznius is a very important mitzvah. It's very interesting. Why? Because tznius shows loyalty. So a man has to have a bris, and not only have a bris, but be loyal to the bris, like be loyal to that body part and don't do things with it that the Torah tells you is inappropriate. So the same for women. We have a mitzvah of tzniut. We have a mitzvah of tzniut. Torah tells you, keep that mitzvah, be loyal to the Almighty and loyal to your true self. Know that you're not just a body, you are a soul, okay? And also be tznius. Don't do things with other men that you shouldn't be doing. That's inappropriate. So if you keep yourself connected to the Jewish community, you keep yourself very aware of this mitzvah of tzniut, the Torah tells you, then you have a very good chance of getting into the world to come. At least you've got the right, what was the thing called? My Rav Cub. Okay. At least you've got the Rav Cub to get on to the light rail. Okay. Otherwise, you're not even getting on. Okay. So Talia, you have your hand up. So I hope I can answer your question. I got them for Siyata Dishmai. What is it that you want to ask?
Do you have to get married and have children to
No.
go to the world to come?
No, because that may not have been, who knows, in your Gilgul, I have no idea who anyone is, and it could be in the Gilgul, you were married, and you already had children, you already fulfilled
I
that.
probably had 10 of them.
That could very well be, I'm not kidding. Like you have to realize that in this world, like one thing that's nice about when you come back as a Gilgul, like what you've done is accomplished. It's not going to be taken away from you. It's all good. This is the area that you fell short in. All right, that this soul fell short in, and it's going to be your mitzvah.
All our neshamos came to the world to listen to Gail Michalowicz.
Yeah. Okay. So you're getting into Olam Haba. You're on the class.
Right.
So if, let's say in the past life, I didn't get married and have children. So will I have to be reincarnated and get married?
I don't know, because I don't know. Really, the mitzvah to get married and to have children, I hate to scare everybody, is a man's mitzvah.
Right.
It's a man's
Why?
It's his fault.
Yeah,
It's his fault.
It's a man's mitzvah. A woman doesn't have to. You know why? Sha'asani kirtso, no, you really are complete. The Torah tells you only a man doesn't have bracha and completeness unless he's married. A woman is complete as is. Hashem created us according to his will. So really,
Well,
it's a shocker. It's a man's mitzvah to get married and to have children. Really,
it's the best answer. Beautiful.
yeah, so that's what it says. So it's just interesting for us to understand. So I just want to tell you a nice idea where they learned this concept with bris and getting into the world to come. So whenever you look at Kabbalah, remember somebody asked me that, like how did I know? So Kabbalah is always based, everything is rooted in the Torah itself, okay? It's not that a Kabbalistic idea comes into a rabbi's head. It's based on sentences in the Torah, right? From the sentences in the Torah, you see what the surface means, you see a little deeper, then you see even deeper, and the deepest part of Torah is called Yisod, the secrets of Torah. So there's a pasuk in the Torah, it's very interesting, I think it's in Va'era, where Hashem comes to see Abraham, right? And what did Abraham have? He just had his bris. And it says he just had his bris and he's not feeling well. It's 3 days into the bris, which is the hardest time, boiling hot outside because Hashem did not want him to be bothered with guests. And it says he's sitting at the petach of his ohel. He's sitting at the opening of his tent, right? And he's trying to greet people who are coming. So what does the Kabbalah say? This is a hint, the Zohar says, this is a hint to the future, that Abraham is going to be sitting at the opening of Gehenna. And anybody who comes, who just had a bris and was sneeze and kept their bris properly, he's going to tell them, you don't have to go to Gehenna. I'm going to let you, I'm going to save you from Gehenna. All right, so that's where they get this idea. So beautiful idea, okay? So now.
What happens if you don't keep sneot and then you do tshuva and then you do?
Everything is good. If you do tshuva, the point of all this, like you are such a good question. The point of why you're even learning all this, you want to learn it while you're alive, right? You very much want to learn all this while you're alive so that we know what to do correctly. Do you know what I mean? That's what the Torah is trying. That's one thing beautiful about Hashem. He tells you the questions on the exam and he gives you the answers. Do you know what I'm saying? This is not like these tricky tests. This isn't, you had these teachers and they threw in these, like, they'd say one sentence, and 10 the first month of class, and then they put it at the end of the exam and drive you nuts. You know what I mean? This isn't like that. Hashem's like, it's not saying, I want to trick you guys. I understand how hard it is as it is. I know I gave you a Yetzer Hara and you're living in a world full of Yetzer Haras. You're not in a spiritual world, and you're in a very natural world. I get how hard this is, so I'm going to explain all of it to you. Okay? So when Hashem is giving you the heads up here, what's he doing for you? He's saying, like, while you're alive, be smart. That's what he's saying. Like, just be smart. Like, use your head. Think. I'm giving you these ideas. So let me explain to you now. The Stipler has a sefer. It's called Chaye Olam, and it's a Musar sefer. It's a sefer that teaches a conduct. You know how to be the best person. So he said, like, why is it so important? Like, he asks a question, like, why do we have to understand this whole subject of Gilgul? Why do we have to understand this whole subject of Gilgul? So he says, number one, you have to know that although you're looking at a very natural world, right? The world is much deeper and there's many more levels to it. So sometimes you're making a judgment just by looking at something on the surface. This is a good explanation for everything in our lives. Like somebody just says something kind of, not so nice to you. And you just looking at the surface. Wow, what a terrible person. That's just on the surface. But if you had a deeper understanding, this person just came out of a hospital and found out that who knows what, you know what I mean? That they're chronically ill, right? And when you said, what's wrong with you? They went, nothing. And down deep, they're like suffering so much, right? If you saw that there's a bigger picture, then you can have a greater understanding. So this is what the Stipler's saying. It's good to learn about this concept of Gilgul, right? And when we get all the details and we get a deeper understanding, you'll understand better why things are happening in your life. Why are certain people in your life? Why do you have these tendencies to things? Why is it that so-and-so loves to smoke and I'm like disgusted? You know what I mean? Like right? But I love to eat, okay? And I've like people in my life who look at me and go like, why would you eat that? That's junk food. And I'm like, yes, okay, that's what I like. You know what I mean? So why is it that one person has this, one person says, why is it that it always rains? There's some people that it rains on them all the time. Every time they get rid of one surah, what happens? Around the corner comes another one. And then other people looks like doody-doody-doody-doody-doody-doo. Life is great. So the Gilgulim can give you a little bit of a deeper understanding of why things are happening to you and to other people. Okay, just to give you, so that's one reason this type. Wait 1 second, just want to do the 3 things and then I'm going to ask you, okay, Talia? So one thing he said is that it makes it easier for us and it makes us appreciate that the world is a much deeper place, which I said, like when you stand in the ocean and then you stick your head in and you go snorkeling, then you see there's another world under the ocean. The Torah is compared to a garden. Why? Because in a garden, you think, oh my gosh, there's grass and flowers. Wrong. You dig under the dirt, there's worms and bugs and another whole world and roots and nutrients and minerals and stuff that you had no idea. That's what Hashem is trying to say to us, okay? So he's saying, yeah, you look at the world on the surface, you think you're you, I'm me, Hashem's saying, no, there's a whole other depth to this. You know why you're suffering? You know why it's hard for you? You know why it's easy for you? Because there was another part. There's another part here. There's a neshama, an extra part that's come into you, right? That you have to mitaken. There's more to you and more to me than meets the eye. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing he said is it's a good reason to learn about Gilgulim because it will help you understand why you suffer. Like sometimes, you can have people in your life and they stab you in the back. Good people that you trusted. And like suddenly they stab you in the back and you got to go through this whole episode and you're like, what the heck is going on? And what is it? Then you stop and you say, oh, in a past life, maybe I cheated them. Maybe I did what they're doing to me. Right now, I feel like the good guy, but for all I know, yeah, I was the bad guy. You know what I mean? Or children die young. How the heck? Why? What did an innocent child do? The Gilgul of a tzaddik. It was a Gilgul of a very righteous person. He only had to come back for a very short while. Right? There's stories of these, even like stories of this child. Like they didn't have someone to nurse him. The mother couldn't nurse him. Was nursed by a non-Jew, and then he comes back as a Gilgul. He's a baby for 3 months. Nurses from a Jewish mother, for some reason, I don't know why, that was what his tikkun was, passes on, and his neshama finished its job. Do you see what I'm saying? So really, because what we have to look at ourselves is we're not really our bodies, what we really are is our souls, okay? So that was the second thing that he said, okay? So let me see what else. Okay, so I can give you, like today, like when I'm talking to you now, we can give you a general overview. Okay, a general overview. Usually when a child dies young, it usually is a Gilgul who finished his job. Exactly why he dies this way, exactly why this person is the parent, that you have to go to really great rabbis, great Michalowicz who could maybe tell you, you know, a Baba Sali's son, but not just like anybody. Okay, you have to go to very, very holy people. But generally speaking, what we're going to get from this is not specifics, but a general overview. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting thing. Okay, there's a small group of rabbis who didn't believe in Gilgulim. Okay, most of those rabbis, if they look at the time period that they lived, it's very, very long ago, and it was before the Zohar, right, was written. So it's before Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote the Zohar, and people really studied it. So it's interesting. So they tell us.
What do they call Tzedukim?
No. They were just rabbis before the Gaonim, before, you know what I mean? Before the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's time. So
but they were not known in history as
Zohar wasn't as accepted. So one of them, it's just an interesting story. His name was Rav Aryeh Mamendino. Okay, that was his name, Rav Aryeh Mamendino. Okay, he was a big, like, he protested against this idea of Gilgulim. What are you talking about? Why are we talking about this subject? Nobody knows it, blah, blah, blah. Before the Zohar was very known to all the people, and people had studied it, right? Before Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai came out with it. So what did he say? He said it's not true until one day, okay, in his community, his neighbor had a baby. The baby was 6 months old. The baby was really not well, and she saw the baby was at his end. So she went over to this Rav Aryeh and she said to him, Rav Aryeh, please come. Even if you say Shema with the baby, even just like let him, like escort him out of this world into the next. So he ran over to escort this baby, and everyone saw the baby was on its last breath and it's very heavy breathing. It's not doing well. And he's saying all these different prayers. And then it was time to say the Shema, you know, so he's about to begin the Shema, and the baby screamed out, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, at 6 months, and died when he said Echad. So then this rabbi realized, okay, this baby is a Gilgul, and Hashem
of a much older person.
Yes, made me witness this so that I would retract what I'm saying. He said, okay, I learned my lesson. You know, there is such a concept as Gilgul. Okay, so Talia, you're so patient. So let's hear what you had to say. Okay. I can't hear you, so you must be on mute.
Okay, I just have a question. You know, when someone wrongs you and embarrasses you or something very serious that really lowers your self-esteem, could you pray, like, is it all right to pray that they are not punished and instead that you be elevated?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're a tzaddikus. That's a tzaddikus. That's a
And to you be elevated, that relatively they'll be suffering because you're doing so well.
No, here's what you think. You say, you know what, God, you are in charge of everything. This person, like, you see when you say it, even in the prayer, right? Before you go to bed. Oh my gosh. So here's a perfect example. Yeah, forgive them. Like, let's get over this. Like, this is not easy. Like, yes, ego, our ego is a real part of us, okay? And it's a very strong element of us.
But you know, you don't gain anything if they
suffer. You don't. So that's what you're going to say here. That's what you say. I'm going to forgive anybody, okay? Anybody who does anything against me, accidentally, deliberately, inadvertently, purposefully, with speech, with deed, with thought, if they thought about it, whether in this incarnation or in another incarnation.
Yeah, actually, because
you're actually saying, like, obviously this person, like I was saying, you can be hurt. Somebody stabs you in the back.
But
you realize that person is stabbing you in the back. This could be coming from a past reality. And God is giving me another opportunity for tikkun. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to forgive him. And I'm going to say, you know what, God, he's your problem. He chose to do something.
No, you should bless him.
I'm going to bless. Say thank you. You can say thank you. You embarrass me. That's the greatest kapara that you could have. He just took off tons of potential Gehennim from you. If
Well,
you are embarrassed in public, it's like you died. You know, it's like
yeah,
that.
but you know, you just don't gain anything because in anything, if anything bad happens to them, you just feel bad for them, and it's like, what's the point? What's the point of that?
Good for you. Okay, good for you. So now let's go on. Perfect. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I just wanted to see. Okay, so the Reishi Chachma, okay, in his Sefer, he writes about Gilgulim, and Rav Chai Gaon was a strong opponent. Again, another person was a very strong opponent against Gilgulim until again he was exposed, right, to the Zohar, and then he realized, you know what I mean, this was a mistake. The idea also, the Ramban is always pro the concept of Gilgulim. He really believes strongly in it. Now, okay, so let me see. Now, let me just see. Okay, now Gilgulim is not an easy story though. Like that's something that we have to think about. Like some people go, oh, okay, so I didn't finish the job. That's great. I'll be sent down as a Gilgul. Okay, now being a Gilgul is not fun. All right, a Gilgul, first of all, like just think about it, how much effort it took to get to the world to come, how much you had to endure in your lifetime, how much effort and so much trials and tribulations and this and that. And finally, you just want to go home and they say, guess what? You didn't finish your job. You got to go back again. Now, going back again, like a Gilgul is not necessarily into a person. Like it's scary. And you could be sent down as a neshama into something for many, many hundreds
A rock.
years. Yes. So they say like there is a pyramid of life, a pyramid of living reality. So the first thing that is not very living is a rock. Okay. After a rock comes plant life. Higher than that is animal life. You know, Esther in Israel, they make a joke because there's a gazillion cats everywhere. You go to Israel, went to Israel, I'm in the airport, the first thing that greets me is a cat. You know, like everywhere you go to base medrash, a cat comes out. You go to, do you ever see so many cats in your whole life? So they make all these jokes. That cat's a Gilgul, this cat's a Gilgul, every cat's a Gilgul, because they're always in these very odd places. Okay, would you want to be a cat? You know, you want to be a neshama that sits in a cat. You want to be a neshama that sits in a rock. You want to be a neshama that sits in a plant. Sometimes they say like it sits there for a long time till it's able to jump into the next phase, to the next phase, to the next phase. Like it's not a joke. And then even after you go through the whole Gilgul scene and you finish what you were supposed to do, you still have to go to Gehenna, right? To clean off any boo-boos that you made, right? From the time before. So that's what I'm just trying to say. So it's not like, you know, like, it's not like people should sit here and go, okay, so, you know, I didn't do what I had to do. Big deal, I'll be a Gilgul. It's not a fun thing to be a Gilgul. Right now, in this generation, we are at the end of time. That's it. There's nothing to talk about. It's so obvious that I don't even need to waste my breath on it, all right? Just, you don't believe me? Turn on the news for 5 minutes and you'll see, okay? So what's going on here? So really, we're kind of all the leftover recycled souls. None of us are new. You know, it's very funny. I once gave this class like 1,000,000 years ago when I did a mission once 1,000,000 years ago, okay, on, you know, the JWRP. So it's mostly secular women. So I must have given this little class for like 10 minutes, you know, to introduce something at a restaurant, okay? When I was finished, this lady comes over to me, she goes, I just have to tell you, like, I can feel things. You're a very old soul. I felt like saying, you know what, so are you. We're all old souls. Okay, we're at the end of time. So we're like the kind of the we're the recycled batch. All right, what does that mean? That means we were given a mission. Okay, so our neshamas, my neshama and Cecile and Amita and everybody and Leora, okay, all of you, all of us have a mission to do. And that mission is attached. That mission is that someone else's mission that was not complete is now given to us to do. That's what's happening here. So it's not like this whole new fresh thing. This is our mission, is to complete the last guy's mission. So what does that mean? Let's say you're on a job, right? And the guy next to you didn't finish his work. right? He's not that smart, whatever. They left the company and they turn to you and go, you know, we really need you because you've got the expertise. You're going to have to take over for what Tom didn't finish. Does that mean you're any less? You're an amazing person. Okay, your mission is just very defined. That's all. There was this thing, this lack that Tom missed for the big company, for the big purpose of the company. And now your mission is to make sure that that piece is done. That's what it means to be in this generation. All right, that's what it means. Okay, so just important for us to understand that. So now, when does the Gilgul enter the body? That's the question. Okay, so some people say it goes right when you're conceived, which would be the very best time. Just like, you know, these cells are building and creating the body. Hashem has your neshama with this person's neshama kind of connected. He's in your backpack and he's your mission. Okay, right at conception. Some people say that he comes in when the child is born. Okay, so the child is born, you learned all the Torah you needed to learn, your neshama it's ready to go, and now boing, okay, jumps on this little Gilgul, okay, jumps on this past neshamas. And sometimes it just comes into somebody in adulthood, and you wonder, like, what the heck happened to that person? They were so normal, and now there's something off. Now, like, suddenly they became really religious. Suddenly they went off the derech. Suddenly they did this. Suddenly they did that.
Schizophrenia.
Yeah, like suddenly you see something that's odd. The
Two
whole time,
personalities.
you know what I mean? Like the whole time they were going a certain way, and suddenly everything snapped. So they said an example of that could be suddenly they can come onto you, or suddenly they can leave. The Gilgul leaves because whatever it had to do was done. So they say in the story of Eov, okay? So Eov had a wonderful life, right? He was wealthy, he was healthy, he was smart, he had 10 kids, everything was going great. And then suddenly, on a dime, everything switched. So they say one of his friends said to him, you had a Gilgul with you. The Gilgul finished its job. You no longer needed to be healthy and wealthy and smart and have a million kids. Now your neshama has to go through challenges, and now it will have to do and flex its muscle for who you are now, even without the Gilgul attached to you. So it's very interesting because sometimes you'll see, like I've seen that, where people who had very good lives, they were married to very nice people, everything was great. And then suddenly everything switched. You know, the person died suddenly, right? They died a very not easy death. Like I've seen it, right? The husband dies of something, two of people that I knew, that they had very normal, happy lives. And suddenly both husbands, they both were murdered. They were both murdered. They were murdered. It was like the worst thing. And then suddenly everything changed. Everything changed. What is that? So it could be it's a Gilgul. Either the husbands had finished their jobs and now you live a life with a different reality, and now you're not part of this Gilgul's adventure in life, and now you have a whole new venture in life, right? Or something could be the opposite way. Suddenly you yourself personally, right? Everything was one way and now it's another way. Maybe a Gilgul came into you later in life. Do you know what I'm saying? These are very like esoteric, mystical realities. We're going to try, like in a few classes from this, I'm learning from this Rabbi Ganesh, and in a few classes, he said he's going to make it much more practical for us so that we could look within ourselves and see our challenges and recognize that this is our Gilgul's tikkun, that this is what we have to be working on. Okay? And I think each and every one of us, if you're really real with yourself, you know where you've, like a lot of people here, especially, like, you know, you've moved along. You know, you were a very different person maybe 20 years ago to who you are today. There were certain
Hello, it's me.
yeah. So, right, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you knew there was always something inside of you pushing you. No, Esther, there was something
Yes.
that you were not satisfied with. No matter what, no matter all the secular fun and beauty and everything that you have, like, and every, you know, Baruch Hashem, Esther, blessed with beauty, like beyond. Okay, you really are Malkata Esther, right? And you could use, no, I'm being honest, like, I'm being real, like, thank Hashem, you got that bracha. But you could use that bracha for a lot of naughty stuff. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah, I've been there.
And you got the guy you wanted, right? So, you know, we got to be real. This was a real test. Why would Hashem give you this more than anyone else? Okay, this is your tikkun. This is what you had to work with. Who knows who the Gilgul of who you are? Do you know what I mean? But you took it, right? You took it, and now you changed it into a whole different dynamic. Do you see what I'm saying? You were metakein, right?
Nachon.
Right, but you understood there was something there, right? So Talia, what would you like to ask?
Sorry, I'm gonna ask you to repeat something.
Okay.
The Gilgul could attach to you while you're conceived or when you're born.
Right, or suddenly. As
Yeah, I was actually born. Never mind. When someone died, but okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's very true. That's this idea, like when they say to you, that's very, like, you know, when they'll say
That's how
to you,
you're very holy. If you
Yeah, like
know
sometimes,
your
like
time
sometimes-
of the Gilgul.
yeah, like they'll say if someone passes on, right? It's
Wow.
a big bracha if someone is born within the year and gets their name.
Within a day.
Or within a day, even more. So then you're going to get, like, you know what I mean, part of the essence of this neshama. And in today's world, we're saying that most of these neshamas, their jobs weren't 100% complete. Or maybe just when we name someone after someone, it's also like when you're doing all the good stuff that you're doing, it's like a legacy to them. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like, you know, when they say, like, I always found it really odd. You know, when you go to the grave site of people, what do you see on top of the stone, on top of the monuments? What do you see people put? Stones. Did you ever wonder why?
Yes.
Okay, so you know why? You're building on their legacy. When you bring that stone, you say, I remember who you are. I remember all the good things that you did.
It's like a seal.
Yes, I am living with your legacy in mind because you said this and this. That's why I live with this idea. And now I add on to your monument. I'm actually making it even bigger and greater.
It's sign, seal, and deliver.
Yes. Okay, so that's what it's like. Do you see?
Beautiful. Yeah.
So the same idea here. You were born the day after. I don't know if they named you or there's a connection between you and that person, right? And now either if they had an issue, maybe that Gilgul goes into you, maybe, or if not, anyway, you're going to live with part of that legacy. You know what I mean? If you're named after them. Okay, so let's just move on a little bit more. Let me just see if I can get something else. Okay, let me see. Okay, we said that. Wait a second. Okay, so the Gilgul itself, like I told you, it isn't a pleasant thing. Like we have to appreciate, we're not looking to go, okay, you know, whatever I accomplish. Otherwise, big deal, come back as the Gilgul. Okay, it's not a simple story. And people, the Gilgul itself doesn't really enjoy it. Okay, they don't want to, you know what I mean? They wanted their job to be finished. So it's interesting. I just wanted to see, I wanted to see a good way. Sorry, I want to give you a mushal, and I'm looking for what the mushal was. Okay, so it's a mushal of a person, right? He goes overseas, and in, you know, many years, like in the days of yore, okay, we didn't have lightning speed jets, you know, like we complained, oh my gosh, I had to stay on the flight for an hour and a half to get to New York. You know what it was like to get to New York, you know, years ago, right? You're on a boat, you're on a this, you're on a that. Like imagine, okay, you go through this whole thing. You tell your wife, you know, I got to make money, honey. Okay, I'm going to New York. It's going to take me 3 months. You're not, like in those days, no phone, no this, no that. You're not going to hear from me. You're not going to hear from me for 3 months, right? You're going to be sitting alone in the house praying that this person doesn't get killed on the road, right? And you're waiting till they come, till they go back, blah, blah, blah. So they get to their destination, they get to New York, and then what? They don't find a parnasa. They don't find a job. What's the frustration of having to go back empty-handed? So that's the same kind of frustration. Like we get upset if you're waiting an extra 10 minutes, like the handyman had to come and he comes a half an hour late. You've already pulled out all your hair. You're like already cuckoo, right? So imagine the frustration, like didn't work out at all. You put 80 years, you put 90 years, you put this many, 100 years, and Hashem says, okay, you got to go back and finish the job. So it's not something that you are looking to have happen. And that's something that we have to appreciate. We're not looking to be a Gilgal, all right? We don't want to do that. Okay, now. Okay, so it's an interesting idea. In fact, this idea, like, what, Hashem, like, I know you really want to give me an Olam Haba, so, I'll just have my party, and, then I won't worry about it. I'll be a Gilgal. It'll all be great. It'll all be fine. This is the mistake that Adam Arishon made. Like, we have to be careful with Torah, because it's almost like, in a way, like I am a little guilty, because I didn't want to teach you all the very, parts of Gehenna and this and that could be very scary. Why did I not want to do it? Because I'm not comfortable with it. And I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I don't want us to worry. I don't want us to this. I don't want us to that. So like I skip over it and I go into the Gilgal part because I think that's going to be a little easier to swallow. Sometimes we'll do that. We want to minimize reality, right? So that we can swallow it. But sometimes you got to be careful. Like you can't play with Torah. Like Hashem said to Adam Harishon, right? He said, do not eat from the tree. It's not good for you. You really won't understand. You can't understand good from bad. You're too limited, right? You're having a hard time understanding it even when it's outside of you. All the more so when you're going to eat it and it's going to be all mixed up, right? When there's going to be lots of gray. It's going to be very hard for you. What did Adam Arishon say to himself? No, I'm going to eat from it because then it'll be a bigger challenge and I'll get a bigger reward. The same thing with David HaMelech, right? Shem said, you know what, David? I tested the avos. I didn't test you as hard as them. Go ahead, test me. I could do it. No, the Torah tells you don't do those kinds of things. So don't say to Hashem, I can have a party. Don't worry about it. Then it'll be a great Gilgal. Not necessarily. You know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying? Like we have to be very careful. Like in other words, like we all want to get into the world to come. Raise your hand. I'm going to raise both and 2 feet. Okay, we all want to come. What's the best way to get there? Shema Yisrael. Listen, Jewish people. Listen what? Listen, understand my words, and do what I ask. Yashar Gail, straight with me. Don't try to go this way, and don't try to go that way, and don't try to make a new path and say it's all good and dandy. Just stick to the program. That's what Hashem is saying. And that's the best way to get you in. Okay, so there is a Mishnah, Gemara, where you hear these rabbis are arguing. It's a great argument. Is it better that people should not have been born, right? Or is it better that they were born? And the answer is it's better that they shouldn't have been born. So everybody's like shocked.
I agree.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Barditchev, he explains that. Like, what do you mean it's better that he shouldn't have been born? That's crazy. Then why did Hashem create the world? Like if he's saying like we're such, people full of so many flaws, like, we're only going to make mistakes. We're never going to do the right thing. We're never going to be perfect. Then why did he even create the world? What's the joke? That's a terrible, bitter, sad joke, right? So Rav Levi from Barditchev explains it like this. He says it's better that we shouldn't have been born again. Better that you are not a Gilgal, right? And that you did what you were supposed to do. Okay, that's what Rav Levi Yitzchak from Barditchev says. When it says, is it better that we were born or not? He says, yes, it would be better. We should not be born again, and that we accomplished the job that we were supposed to accomplish at the time that we were given the job, all right? That we should have finished it, all right? So now, okay, so we said this. Let me just see what else there was. Okay, we said either the person is coming to finish up things, right, that he did not do, because we said that Gehenna cannot do things for you. Okay, now some Averos. Now, sometimes you could do something that's such a bad thing, like it's really bad, okay, like a big bomb. Like sometimes you can have, it's interesting. Sometimes like chas v'shalom, God forbid, a person is diagnosed, anyone is diagnosed with cancer. So sometimes some cancers, like if you catch them early, right? They always say like early detection is the biggest bracha. Because you can have early detection and they can do a surgery and kind of cut out the area, right? And you're good to go. But sometimes it's affected the body so badly, right? Like you might have to lose a limb or something like this, right? So times, God forbid, right? Like Gehenna can't even clean you out. Like it can't do that little minor surgery because so much of you was destroyed in the process, right? So then sometimes if you did like so many averos consistently, like you never kept your mouth shut, you know, you were big blush and hara, blah, blah, blah. You ate treif your whole life long. They're hard. Those are hard averos. They've really affected the totality of who you are. They can't just be cleansed in Gehenna. Sometimes that kind of stuff, you may also have to be sent back as a Gilgul just to be able to merit to go through rehab. You're not even ready for rehab without it, okay? So let me see. Yeah? Tal, you want to ask something?
So if you have a Gilgul with you, are you like two people?
No, you're still the one person, but that Gilgul is that there's an influence. There's like an influence.
Oh, an influence.
Like an
So
influence.
if you do things that you're influenced by,
You're influenced.
is it their credit? Do they get the credit?
It's influence to no, it's like you're trying to finish up Tom's job. Okay, you're trying to finish up this other person's job. So you're influenced to be put into the positions that he was in that
Mhm.
he didn't fix or that he made mistakes with.
So,
Like you're given
and if
in
you
other words,
fix,
your
and
assignment.
if you fix them, then it's their merit.
It's your merit. It's your merit, and you've helped them also. But it's your merit.
But isn't it partly their?
But it helps. Yeah, it's partly theirs too. It partly is accrued to them. But I think it's almost like what I always say. It's almost like I don't know. I remember it so vividly in gym, like playing that relay race stuff. Do you remember relay race? Who remembers playing it? You had to sit in line and one person has to go and touch the wall. Then they run back and they touch your head. And then you got to get up and run back. Who wins the entire row? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Entire row. So that's what's kind of happening here. You're all responsible for this one row. If you're the best runner and everybody else muffs it up, you don't win. Do you know what I mean? Yes, we could say, wow, you did a great job, you personally, but the totality of that neshama is not complete. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Could they influence you in a bad way too?
They influence you in other words, it's going to be, you're going to be put into their position, right?
So
their positions of failure. And now you have to work with your free will choice to overcome their challenges.
But they haven't been in Gehenna, so they might still have a negative side that they might influence.
No, they're coming down specifically with what they need to have corrected. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be specifically influenced. Like, let's say I'm going to be real with you. Like, anybody know people with a really terrible temper? Anybody know that?
Me.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm being really honest. Like, the kind of people, like, you blow very quickly, right? You blow on a dime. This doesn't go your way. That doesn't go your way. They're very controlling. Right? And you're looking at them like, what the heck is wrong with these people, right? Like people who are easygoing, living with those kind of people, it's like, it's two different worlds. The easygoing person is totally looking at that angry person, I'm being honest, as if they are mentally unwell. And the angry person who needs everything to be in control is looking at the easygoing person and thinking they're mentally unwell. Don't you get it? Someone spilled the milk. That is terrible. We have to clean up the table. And the other person's like, yeah, take a chill pill. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so these realities are sometimes the things that you have to matake. This person who's coming with this nitiya, this like, what's it called? Predispositioned, easy anger, could be that you didn't fix that in another life. And now Hashem's giving you another chance. You're hooked onto another body, right? And you have this burden that you're carrying. And now we have to hope that this person, before they end their trip, right, realizes, that this is a real issue and they had better work on it. And you know what I mean? And hopefully they will, right? And then you both can sit down and finish the race. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So often that's why it's like seems so impossible, right? How can we all be so different? So that could be sometimes you're carrying, so it seems so extreme. Yeah, it seems so extreme because it's not only your anger, you're carrying the other guy's anger too. And you're like this easygoing whatever. It's not only your easygoingness, it's the easygoingness of some other Gilgal. And sometimes they were so easygoing that they let things slide and they need to be more on the ball.
So you could be influenced negatively by the Gilgul.
I don't know if it's influenced negatively. You'll be tested. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't like this word influence negatively. It's not like the Gilgal's riding you. The Gilgal is coming and holding on, and the Gilgal comes with their thing that they need corrected, and they're hoping that you're going to correct it. And God will put you in similar circumstances that this Gilgal went through, and now you, right, need to be mitaken. You need to think about this and fix it. When you say, oh my gosh, why is it so hard for me? Yeah, it could be because you're holding that you got a double dose, man. You've got this Gilgal on your back who also, had this anger problem. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? But it's not whispering in your ear, okay, get mad now. If anything, this Gilgal's going to want you not to. Okay, if anything, this Gilgal's like praying, please don't blow it. Okay, do you know what I'm saying? Because then we're stuck.
So you'll be tested with the things the Gilgal needs to be tested.
Or you might be tested in ways that like what I said, you could have stabbed somebody else in the back. And now Hashem says, okay, now you're going to get stabbed in the back. Do you see what I mean? And now what are you going to do with it? Do you see what I'm trying to say? Like a Gilgal is a very, and sometimes like it's not a simple story. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes a person could have a hard life, nothing to do with being a Gilgal, but they volunteered to take the hit for the Jewish people. The famous story of Gail Rebbe, like he turned around to his family one day, not so many years ago, what is it, 30, 40-year-old story where the Gail Rebbe, he turned around, he said to his family, I'm going to have to go to the next world. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he said, there's supposed to be a terrible thing that's going to happen to the Jewish people. And I told Hashem, take me, please, take me as a korban and don't let this happen. And he died. You know what I'm saying? So like, we don't know, like there's so much of a mystical reality. What we do know, and that's why we have to stay focused. What we do know is that we are these last generations, right? Whatever this 6,000 year Jewish calendar, around 5,883. There's not a lot more years. So if we're even off, we're not going to be off by thousands, okay? We're off by what, 5, 6 years, maybe? Like we're not going to be off by thousands, right? So that's not a lot of years left to the destiny of history. So we can appreciate when the rabbis tell you that we are recycled souls, I can believe it, okay? Not new souls are being produced, right? Or souls that haven't had a big trip. We're already at a long trip, so we're at the end of the line. You know one thing, you want to get to the world to come. That is where you go. None of us want to, that's where we're trying to get, we're pushing to the finish line. So we're pushing to the finish line. What did we say? Stay connected to the Jewish community. We said, be careful with your tznius. If you feel you've done anything wrong, do tshuva, do things like this, every night, forgive people. If it's a Gilgal, whoever hurt you. Why? Because if you forgive people, then what does God do to you? Mida keneged mida. He forgives you. Now, there are people who hurt us in our lives in ways that are incomprehensible, right? Like, let's be real. Some people had very unpleasant parents. Some people had very unpleasant marriages and they stick through it no matter what. You know what? They got a lot of sores and they come with a lot of bruises, but they're going to show them to Hashem and they're going to say, you know what? I took it, Hashem. I took the hit. Okay? And maybe they got a little better and maybe they didn't. But I didn't give up, right? And I didn't give up for you. I didn't give up for the family. I didn't give up for a lot of reasons. I didn't give up, right? And I forgive them because you know why? I didn't live for my body and my ego. I'm living for my soul. And if you wanted me to forgive them, and that's what's going to connect me to you, well worth it. Because whatever Gehenna I went through in these years, whatever it was, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, eternity is much longer. I just want to tell you, eternity is forever and ever, ever. So it's Kedai, right? That's what's going on here. So that's what's going on here. So it's like, put it in, what is the idea is to put all of this into perspective. Now, I'm just going to show you examples of Gilgulim. I just want to give you an example. So David HaMelech had a little bit of somebody else's neshama attached to him. Does anybody know who? Who did David HaMelech was? They say he was a part Gilgul of. Anybody know?
Avraham Avinu.
No. When I tell you, you're going to be very surprised.
Shaul?
I'll give you a hint. David HaMelech was very red. He has a gingy. He had a big temper. He liked to
Esav.
Esav. Okay, David HaMelech had Esav connected to him. Okay, both of them red, both of them very hairy, both of them in the blood business. Okay, Esav was a big murderer. David HaMelech was a killer. What was the difference between the way Esav killed and the way David HaMelech killed?
Yeah, Esav killed and raped.
Yes.
David HaMelech killed to pure the people who went against the
Yes. To defend the Jewish people. If David HaMelech was angry at Rishaim, at the Jewish enemies, Esav was angry at anybody who didn't do what he liked. Completely different. David HaMelech, as a king of the Jewish people, do you know what he'd spent his days looking at? Nidak Shailas. You know, like when you have to ask rabbis when you do a badika and you're not sure, you know, if it's clean or it's the tameh or tahar, you go to the rabbi. You think that that's a pleasant job for anybody? Nobody wants to do that. That's what David HaMelech did all day. Okay, so David HaMelech was able to mitakein, like whatever it was. So did Esav get some tikkun for it? I'm assuming yes. Right? The same thing Moshe. Moshe, they said, was the Gilgul of Noah.
Adam Rishon.
Noah. They both were in a teva. They both were in a teva. They both had to save the world. They both went up for 40 days and 40 nights. Do you know what I'm saying? Noah, at the end, when he gets onto the planet, he builds himself a grapevine and gets drunk. Okay, not a good mitzvah to do. Do you know what I mean? Like the world needed a man thinking, okay? Needed a man who was there with all his faculties being happy, right? And he kind of,
Why?
you see what I'm saying? So it's just an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea. So you will see, like in modern times today, like my son-in-law's father, Rabbi Irons, is a very big historian. He does a lot of classes on the near-death experience, the concept of Olam Haba, and the concept of reincarnations. And there are many stories today of people who remember a previous life, like fully with details. And then they check them out. Like they'll take this kid born in Indiana who remembers being in Poland. And then they go back with this kid and they see the apartment that he sees, You know, sorry, Chevet Rigler, she did a lot of research on people who feel they are Gilgulim from the Holocaust, even non-Jews, who will remember being blown up, remember the noises, remember the sounds, remember this, remember that. She herself feels, if she's an American through and through, Yankee Doodle all the way, all right? Nobody went to the Holocaust, and she acted and felt always, had some kind of crazy attachment to the Holocaust all her life, right? So this is what I'm just trying to say. So Mirza Shem, we're gonna learn more about it, and as time goes on, so I did skip to this point. And then if we have more time and people want us to go back and learn more about Gehenim and all the other things, I'm happy to do it. But for right now, I just felt where we are, that it would be better to kind of move forward this way. Okay, so I am going to stop the recording.
What's the next thing we're going to learn?
Still about the Gilgulim. There's a lot more about Gilgul. And I think like there's another like 2 weeks about Gilgul. And I think it would be very, very good for us, you know what I mean, to have this opportunity to really understand it with more clarity once and for all, because we throw it around all the time. Okay, so I'm going to go to, where is stop the recording? Okay, here, should be here. Stop recording. Okay, great. Okay, so now